You know that feeling when something at work just feels off? Hmm. Like a subtle ripple in the usual calm that makes you think, okay, something's not quite right here.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
We're diving straight into a classic case of that today. It's about a seemingly straightforward promotion that uh, ended up shaking things up in ways nobody really expected.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it, how a decision that's meant to be positive, elevating someone, can just cause chaos if the team dynamics underneath aren't really looked at.
Exactly. So our focus today is this real-world example from our sources. We've got Claire, who's like a data genius,
Right.
loves Excel.
Right.
She gets promoted to project portfolio lead. Now, Claire was super detail-oriented, great with spreadsheets, but maybe not the most socially connected person on the team.
Okay.
And then you contrast that with Jamal. For the past year, he'd basically been the go-to guy, the unofficial project leader.
The one everyone liked and respected.
Totally. The informal leader. So you can kind of see how this setup might cause some turbulence, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The sort of unwritten rules, the social fabric of the team, it's just as critical as any formal org chart when you make a change like this.
Yeah, and the source material really highlights that contrast.
Right.
Claire's technical prowess versus Jamal's established influence.
It sets the stage perfectly.
And the moment the promotion actually got announced, it sounds like something straight out of maybe an awkward office sitcom.
Ha,
It
yeah.
was during a birthday party, the slightly off-key singing, the cake.
Oh, one of those.
Exactly. And then, boom, the team's notification drops, announcing the promotion.
Oof, timing.
And the reaction. Silence. Apparently someone actually dropped their soda can.
Yeah.
An analyst nearly choked on cake. It just paints this vivid picture of complete surprise.
And not the good kind of surprise.
Definitely not the celebratory kind.
Wow. That immediate, negative physical reaction from everyone, that's such a powerful signal.
Totally.
It screams that the decision just didn't mesh with their expectations or, how they saw the team's leadership working.
So for everyone listening in, our mission today, our deep dive, is really to unpack why this promotion went so sideways.
Right. What were the underlying issues?
Exactly. We want to dig in, find those core problems, and pull out some genuinely useful lessons. Stuff you can actually apply if you face a tricky team situation or some kind of organizational change.
Yeah. Hopefully some practical takeaways.
Okay, so let's get into what happened right after that bombshell announcement.
Well, what's really fascinating, I think, is how the team's unhappiness, their frustration, it didn't just erupt,
No big shouting matches.
No, not really. Instead, it just sort of simmered, and it came out in these really subtle, almost creative acts of resistance.
Creative is one word for it, and kind of passive-aggressive maybe, but also pretty funny in retrospect.
Definitely.
The source mentions emails accidentally bouncing back. Makes you wonder how many were genuine tech problems, right?
Right. Or dashboards just mysteriously breaking. Suddenly deadlines become flexible suggestions.
It's like this silent rebellion, all done through corporate speak and technical difficulties.
Exactly. And the engagement with Claire's messages, just those single thumbs up emojis instead of actual replies, that says so much.
Oh, yeah. Speaks volumes about the lack of buy-in, doesn't it?
It's classic disengagement. People are there physically, maybe on the call, but their actual commitment, gone.
And poor Jamal in all this. The way he's described, camera off, mic off, body language, colder than Claire's most complex Excel formula.
Oh,
You can almost feel that chill through the screen, can't you? But the spreadsheets? Okay, this is where it gets really good. And yeah, creative.
the spreadsheets are such a perfect, almost darkly funny example of the team channeling everything.
Right. Using the tools of their trade to protest.
Yeah, using their work tools to basically voice their collective unhappiness.
Okay, so there was a tab labeled Projects Claire Will Probably Forget.
No, seriously.
Seriously, the sheer nerve, but also, probably a genuine concern underneath it all.
Sure.
And then there was Why Not Jamal.xlx.
Get out. What was in that one?
Okay, get this. Mock approval ratings for Jamal versus Claire, sarcastic engagement metrics, and even color-coded cells supposedly showing levels of emotional distress.
Wow. That's dedication. You almost have to admire the commitment to venting via spreadsheet.
It's definitely memorable
Yeah.
and a pretty stark way to show how they felt.
It really underscores that shared sentiment, doesn't it? And how they use their actual skills complex Excel work to just amplify the message.
And we absolutely cannot forget Polly,
Like, Polly?
the office parrot, which was actually an Alexa speaker someone had nicknamed.
Okay.
Apparently, it kept saying, should have been Jamal.
Oh, come on. Someone programmed it to say that.
Seems like it. It just shows how pervasive the feeling was. It even infected the office tech.
That's incredible. It really drives home that this wasn't just a few disgruntled people. The whole team was feeling it.
So yeah, things weren't exactly running smoothly. Eventually, leadership had to notice.
You'd think deadlines becoming suggestions might be a clue.
You would hope. So they did the classic thing.
Yeah.
Brought in an external consultant.
Ah, the consultant. Often code for, okay, we see there's a problem now.
And, as the source notes, probably comes with a hefty hourly rate attached.
Usually does. It can be useful getting that outside view, but sometimes.
Sometimes it just feels like putting a Band-Aid on a bigger issue.
Exactly. If you don't get to the root cause, it doesn't really fix the team's actual experience.
Well, the anonymous poll surveys they did, those definitely got to the root. The feedback was brutal.
What kind of things came back?
Words like invisible, unheard, burnt toast, which is oddly specific of paints a picture.
Burnt toast.
Wow. And the zinger. Claire. More like beware.
Ouch. Okay, that's sharp. That kind of feedback is a massive red flag.
Huge red flag.
It points to a serious breakdown in, like, psychological safety. Trust is gone.
Claire, she did tray. To her credit, she organized a Coffee and Clarity town hall.
Okay, an attempt to connect. How did that go?
The turnout. Well, let's just say the main draw for the handful who showed up seemed to be the free croissants.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. One person apparently forgot they were even supposed to be there and just wandered in. It really shows how deep that disconnect was.
It's hard, isn't it? Trying to rebuild trust when it's already broken. Just opening a forum doesn't always work if people still feel ignored.
Then the director stepped up. Company-wide town hall rolled out the classic HR speak about reevaluating the decision-making process.
Ah, yes, the corporate mea culpa language. Damage control time.
Pretty much. It signals they know something's wrong, but it can feel a bit detached, can it?
Very detached from the team's immediate feelings, yeah.
Yeah. So the fix they came up with was sort of multi-pronged. Claire got a leadership coach.
Okay, support for her. Makes sense.
Empathy training, which, you always wonder about mandatory empathy.
All right. Can you mandate empathy? Probably not effectively.
They also took her off some critical projects temporarily. And then, kind of quietly, Jamal got promoted.
Ah, interesting. To lead what?
A newly created, separate portfolio stream. So they essentially split the workload.
Okay, so that response suggests leadership saw multiple angles. Claire needing development, the team's morale needing a boost, and Jamal needing recognition.
Yeah, seems like it. And the text says things gradually return to some kind of balance, likens it to a slow Jira board on a Friday afternoon.
Huh. That's painfully relatable for anyone in project management. A slow crawl back to normal.
So true. Okay, so let's shift gears. What should have happened here? It feels like blaming Claire entirely misses the point. This was bigger.
Absolutely. It was systemic. And this is where looking at it through, say, a project management professional or PMP framework is really useful.
Right.
The source material rightly flags several key PMP areas where, frankly, they dropped the ball. A more proactive approach could have avoided so much of this mess.
Okay, let's break that down. First up, stakeholder management, or rather, the lack of it.
Exactly. No real stakeholder engagement assessment seems to have happened.
Which is basically figuring out who's affected and how they might react, right?
Precisely. Identifying everyone impacted by a decision, understanding their expectations, their influence. It's fundamental. Here, the team was the key stakeholder.
And nobody really seemed to map out how they'd feel about this specific change. Ignoring their views was, well, a huge mistake.
Critical oversight. In any project, knowing your stakeholders is step one, especially for internal changes that hit team dynamics so hard.
Okay, what else? HR resource management comes up.
Yeah, the basics weren't covered. After the promotion, there were no clearly defined roles and responsibilities.
So confusion about who does what now.
Exactly. And no updated responsibility assignment matrix, the RAM or RACI chart.
The chart showing who's responsible, accountable, consulted, informed.
That's the one. Without that clarity, especially after a leadership shuffle, you get confusion, resentment, people feeling like the opportunities aren't fair, which clearly happened here.
Makes sense. Okay, this next one I found really interesting. Risk management.
Ah, yes, the risk register.
Apparently, it didn't list morale collapse due to shock promotions as a potential risk.
It sounds funny, but it's a serious point. We often focus on the tangible risks, budget, tech failures,
About the spreadsheets and number stuff.
and we completely miss the human and emotional risks. Team morale collapsing is a project risk, a big one.
That's a huge takeaway. Social risks need to be on that register.
Absolutely. They need proactive identification and mitigation, just like any other risk.
Communications was another big failure point, wasn't it?
Massive. Just the lack of clear feedback channels and, crucially, no explanation for why Claire was promoted.
So that vacuum just got filled with rumors and negativity.
Exactly. Transparency is key during any change. Explaining the why is often just as vital as announcing the what. It builds trust, or in this case, the lack of it destroyed trust.
And finally, integration management. They didn't treat this promotion like a proper project change.
Right. There was no change management plan. It wasn't handled with the structured planning and communication that such a big team shift needed.
It should have been managed like rolling out a new process, almost.
Pretty much, yeah. Assessing impact, communicating clearly, providing support. That framework could have made a world of difference.
The text even jokes about a skills gap analysis probably existing somewhere, buried under snacks.
Huh. Sadly relatable. Important documents getting lost in the shuffle.
So true. Okay, so for everyone listening, what's the absolute core lesson we pull from this tangled situation?
I think the fundamental thing is this. Internal promotions. They aren't just HR admin tasks.
Right, they're way more than ticking a box.
They are significant project milestones. They have real human stakeholders with emotions and perceptions that directly shape the outcome. And these decisions broadcast what the company actually values.
That's powerful. And when that process feels unfair or isn't transparent or just communicated badly,
the fallout is predictable. Trust gets damaged, morale plummets, productivity tanks. You get those negative ripple effects.
so the big takeaway really is treat every leadership change like you treat a formal change request in a project.
Exactly. Assess it, communicate it, plan the rollout carefully. If you don't, you risk, as the text brilliantly puts it, rebellion via Excel.
Love that phrase. Okay, let's shift now to our confidence builder bit. We want to speak directly to you listening. Maybe you've been in Jamal's shoes, passed over for something you felt you deserved.
Or perhaps you've been a Claire, promoted into a situation that suddenly felt hostile or resistant.
Yeah, facing unexpected headwinds.
In either of those really tough spots, it's so important to remember that good leadership isn't about being perfect right out of the gate.
No, it's a learning process.
It absolutely is. It's a journey, learning, adapting, and maybe most importantly, staying human through it all, especially when things get tricky.
And the source material does give a bit of hope there. It notes Jamal didn't quit, Claire didn't just give up.
Right. They both eventually found their rhythm, their own leadership styles.
It's a good reminder that even messy situations can resolve, and people can grow through them. Okay, let's pull back again and really lock in this project management perspective.
This brings us back to that crucial idea. Perception is project reality.
Say more about that.
Well, the team's negative perception of Claire's promotion, that became the reality. Regardless of what leadership intended, the team's view shaped everything that followed.
That makes sense. And the PMP framework is not just about charts and tools then.
Not at all. I mean, those are useful, but at its core, PMP is about managing people, their expectations, their egos, their feelings, even feelings expressed in angry spreadsheets.
Huh. Right. So thinking about promotions, maybe treat them like a software go live.
That's a great analogy, actually. They need solid preparation, careful planning, maybe even a pilot run or some initial soundings.
Could definitely need post-launch support and feedback.
Absolutely. To make sure the transition sticks and is smooth.
And this is a killer line from our source. Most project disasters don't start with budgets running out.
Where do they start?
They start with bruised trust.
That really resonates with this case, doesn't it? Okay, let's make this interactive. Time for our Your Turn case study challenge.
All right. Imagine you're stepping into a project team. You quickly realize a recent promotion, one that wasn't really explained well, has totally tanked morale. Productivity is dropping. What do you do?
Okay, here are some specific things to think about in that scenario. First, how would you actually assess what's going on? How do you measure that stakeholder engagement or lack thereof and the team's morale level?
Good question. What tools could help? Question 2. What specific project management tools or techniques could you use to analyze the impact this leadership change has had on the team and their actual work?
Okay, third, as the project manager stepping into this mess, what concrete actions could you take? What steps to try and rebuild some alignment and lift that morale?
Tricky one. Fourth, looking upwards, what lessons should the leadership team learn from this? What should they take away to stop this from happening again?
And finally, number 5, thinking ahead to your next project. How would you proactively apply these PMP principles, stakeholder engagement, communication, risk management, to prevent a similar disaster?
Great questions to mull over. And to wrap this section, here's our O-tip for today. Leadership isn't just about getting to the destination, that title or position.
What is it about then?
It's fundamentally about how you take people with you on the journey.
Nicely put. So, bringing this whole deep dive together, the crucial insight for everyone listening is just how vital it is to consider that human element
Yeah, it's not optional.
and to actively use project management thinking for these internal changes, especially something as sensitive as a promotion.
Exactly. Even decisions that look simple on an org chart can cause huge waves if they aren't handled with real thought, transparency, and, crucially, an understanding of the team dynamics already there.
Which leads us to a final thought, something for you to think about after this. What small, maybe practical changes could you push for in your own workplace? Changes to make promotions, internal moves feel more fair and transparent?
Good question. Or maybe think back. Have you seen a change handled badly? What were those little early warning signs, the subtle clues that maybe got missed? Thinking about that could offer some really valuable insights for you going forward.